Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. You know, sometimes I get really excited to have guests on to talk to them and find out. And today is definitely one of those days. I have someone on the show. His name is Viva Frei, and I've been following him from quite some time. He's very outspoken, and I really like that about the people on the internet. They're few and far between nowadays. For those who don't know who Viva is, he's a lawyer, a YouTuber. According to his Twitter profile, he's a Shorty Award winner, which I'd like to find out what that even is. I'm not even sure. GoPro Award winner. That's pretty cool. A cool dad, which I also am interested to find out more. And then, of course, annoying husband. But to most people, he is just honest and authentic. And I love those types of people on the internet. Welcome to the show, Viva. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm great. Yes, I haven't
Awesome.
read my Twitter bio in a while. I remember the Shorty Award, GoPro, and annoying husband that I hear daily.
What is a Shorty Award? What is that?
It's I won a Shorty Award for social. It was Shorty for social good. It was like
Oh,
Shorty
cool.
Awards are the internet awards. They're sort of like the streamies. And once upon a time, back before the channel turned somewhat political, when it was like feel good stuff,
Yeah,
do good
life.
stuff.
Yeah, a lot of your stuff was marathon runs. What else did you do?
Cooking, fishing, science
Yeah,
stuff. It was eclectic. It was random.
yeah,
It was
life.
educational, and so I submitted my profile for best overall YouTube presence for so Shorty Social Good Awards, and it's the social good. It was the first year they did the social good version of the Shorty Awards, which they give to best live streamers and whomever. And I got the award the first year it came out, but
Nice.
I've come to be a little realistic now that I probably won't get a nomination for anything that is remotely political ever again, unless it's
Right. Well, that's because you don't really go with the narrative,
Well,
Uh,
I appreciate that people don't want to associate with politics. People don't want to associate with law. They want to, the Casey
Yeah.
Neistats. The only time I ever got irritated with Casey was when he put out that vote for Hillary Clinton video. Even though I'm not American, when you watch someone for slick editing, good storytelling, you don't want the politics.
True.
And before I got into law and realized that law is inextricably connected to politics, I thought I could remain apolitical, but I've realized, unfortunately, you can't separate the politics from the law, and you can't remain apolitical in the sense of not expressing your opinion, even if you still like to see both sides of the story.
Yeah, and you actually do that really well when you're talking about subjects, and I really respect that a lot because I feel like too many people dig their heels in and go, "This is my side. I don't care what the other side says." And quite often, when you're having discussions about anything, honestly, I've seen and heard you do this many times, where you'll say, "Okay, well, what is the other side thinking, or what? How can we look at this in a different way that we can understand?" What the opposing side, why they're doing that. And I love that. I love that. I think that's trying to promote civil discourse, which is so lost
No, no,
in this era.
I think it's part and parcel of the training of a lawyer is draft the proceedings for both sides. It doesn't matter if you believe in it, just draft it as you think the lawyer for the opposing side would draft it. Classic example, that class action lawsuit out of Ottawa suing all of the protesters and the organizers. It's like, I may think it's an exaggerated, baseless, baseless claim, but I could draft it. I could probably draft a very good one. I could probably draft a better version of it than the lawyer representing did.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I think it should succeed, or it doesn't mean I agree with it. But this is the exercise in politics that you have to do. Very rarely, in any form of an argument or any form of a discussion, does one side just absolutely have absolutely no points. And then typically it's not a discussion anyhow. It's just a shouting match.
Right. That's a good point. Well, what was the catalyst that what started the change, the shift, because there's no such thing as apolitical. It's just choosing not to be a part of that world, right? I feel like once people open their eyes to politics, they kind of choose a side, or not necessarily a side, but choose, what's the best way of putting it? Because every different situation or, law or whatever that's going on out there, you can agree with Democrats and disagree with Republicans and vice versa. It's not necessarily like cut for everything. But what was it? What was the catalyst that forced you to kind of shift your channel from this feel good, Shorty award winning content to more like serious talking about what was going on?
Well, it was a slow transition, and that's how transitions have to happen, because if you bend something too quickly, it breaks. But over time, you can change its direction.
Yeah.
I was doing the fishing stuff. I was doing the cooking stuff. I was just doing. It was a cathartic relief from the practice of law, because I didn't want to do anything related to law in my spare time. I wanted to go and just make fun videos and have fun fishing, and it was the release from the practice. And then at one point in time, it started not becoming by any means sustainable, but I started realizing, video licensing agencies, how to monetize on YouTube. And at one point I said, like, I want to do this. And I started doing daily vlogging with this, in as much as I ever thought I could win the federal election in my riding, I also thought, I could be the next Casey Neistat in a sense and succeed off just random storytelling.
Yeah.
And that's you realize that's extremely difficult, because in order to continue to succeed and continue to grow, you have to get to some extent more and more exploitive, both of yourself and maybe even your family. And I think it leads to certain problems, and it leads to certain spiritual problems that, the Roman Atwood type problem, the Casey Neistat type problem, where you have to continue to tell more and more about yourself, and then you have to continue to turn your life into a sort of a show. And I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't interested in doing that. And it's not something I could do authentically, because you'd be able to read through the lack of excitement or the feeling that I was not doing what I felt good about. But at one point I said, I'm going to wind down the legal practice and just try to make it on YouTube. And then I realized that every time I put out a video, which was, a day in the life of a lawyer, people said, oh, it's interesting. We like this content, and, keep doing it. And so as the channel was fishing and whatever, every Thursday I said, I'll do a law vlog Thursday. And then those videos were engaging. People liked them. People found them insightful. And I had something to offer. And it was when I did the breakdown of the Alex Jones deposition, which went, quasi-viral. It got 250,000 views. And for me, that was like...
That's a lot.
It was amazing. I never seen anything like it. It also exposed me to... I need to get my dog in a second. It also exposed me to totally cool. YouTube censorship. And then I said, that was it. I figured out what I could do. I hated the practice of law, but I loved the thinking of law. And so started talking about stuff in a manner which I thought was objective, neutral. And I was selling it as, I'm not going to take a position. I'm going to explain both sides. I think I can still do that. But then when did I realize that you had to take a side? When you started seeing things in law, like the Michael Flynn judicial saga was my very long red pill, where I realized how politics was inseparable from law, how law was tainted by politics, and how every system on earth is effectively tainted by politics. And, it's nice to explain why Michael Flynn is being prosecuted. It's nice to explain the legal side of it. But at some point you have to explain or express your own position, if only to let people know how they have to digest the information you're giving. And started off slowly. I back in 2018, I think I discussed the bill C-16 in Canada, which was the bill to add gender identity to aggravating factors of crimes and to add gender identity to other criminal provisions in law. Jordan Peterson at the time had taken a firm position. This is going to lead to compelled speech. Yep. And I, on the one hand, was naive, young, stupid, didn't know how the system actually worked. Realized his opinion was probably more accurate than it wasn't. And then realized, like above and beyond explaining, you also have to explain your own position and why you feel the way you do.
Yeah. Boy, did he blow up because of that. That was kind of like the catalyst in his world on the internet.
He was very much, ahead of his time. He could see. I still think that a lot of the fear that he saw at the time was somewhat exaggerated. In law, we always say that, bad cases make for bad law. So you don't take the outlier examples to say this becomes the standard case law. But now that I've lived long enough, you have enough bad decisions and it does become the standard in case law. And he saw something that most people didn't see at the time. And now I think a lot of people are seeing it, not just in Canada, not just under that law, but everywhere in the world, and especially on social media.
That's true. Well, so you talked about kind of revealing, your personal side. You stream a lot, and you are doing a lot of YouTube now. How do you find a balance between your, personal life?
Adam, today was when things work out perfectly. I woke
Mhm.
up, did a video, finished editing it in time to give the sneak peek to the community members.
Yeah.
10 minutes before the live stream with the Honorable Brian Peckford. Finished that at 5 minutes before I needed to go pick the kids up. Picked the kids up. We got bubble tea. One of the kids didn't drink it again. It's a $6 waste. And then I exercised, and then I got here. You learn to multitask. Sometimes you don't get to do everything in any given day, but the beautiful thing about the streaming, I do when the kids are at school, and now that I started doing more streaming than the car vlogs, I did both when the kids were at school. I could drop them off, pick them up. I have tag team parenting, we call it, with my wife. She does certain things, I do certain things. But like being a parent with 3 kids, 2 special needs dogs, the most beautiful thing about this, call it a career. I mean, it's a crazy thing that it's become a sustainable life, is that I would be doing it regardless. I do it in my spare time anyhow. I read up when I'm not streaming so that it's all value added, and it just makes for more efficient partitioning of time. But it's stressfully busy sometimes. But being a parent, is that on its own.
So let's go to, I believe this was last year. You actually decided to run for office. It was the Canadian elections. What spawned that? Because that's a whole different step. That's taking it a step further and trying to make a difference yourself in office.
Well, that was the biggest step, because look, I have my own opinions. I still do not consider myself to be affiliated to any one political party. I don't consider myself liberal. I don't consider myself to be conservative. In as much as the party that I ran with was called the PPC, People's Party of Canada, not communist people. It's more libertarian than communist.
Good.
I no, I say the People's Party. It sounds like the People's Party of China. But the biggest issue for me, on the one hand, other than the pain in the neck of running for office, paperwork, all the filings, for me, it was I don't consider myself to be political. I have opinions, and I think they're on both sides. But the second you run for a party, and especially the PPC, which has been demonized, good and proper in Canada, I know, and I knew as of that moment, I'd be branded far right. They call the PPC far right, racist, anti-Semitic, which is ironic given certain demographics.
I'm sure.
I knew that was coming, but there really was no choice, because since COVID, I've seen Canada turn into what it's turned into. A lot of people out there say it's always been like this, and now it's just getting worse. I saw it myself for the first time when they came down with that vaccine passport in my province, and they say kids, if they don't get vaccinated after 13, are not going to be able to go to movie theaters. They're not going to be able to play sports. And I see Canada turning into a place where I'm not sure that I have a future here.
Yeah.
Now, picking up and running is easy, or it's the last resort, and I might still do it. But I said to myself at the time, if I leave before trying to just put my money where my mouth is, I will feel worse about myself than if I go out and do this and fail. I thought I could win. I was an idiot, absolute bona fide idiot. I thought I could win. I think I had an impact, and that was one of my main objectives was to normalize the party and make people realize that this party is not anti-Semitic, it's not xenophobic, it's not it's just a party that believes in constitutional rights. And if that makes them right wing, then that's your definition, not mine. But I said, okay, if I ever decide I have to leave this country, and I do that without having at the very least spoken up and spoken out, I know I will regret that more than the inconvenience of running, failing, or the embarrassment of running and failing, and the inconvenience that comes along with a political run.
Yeah.
But it was an absolute learning experience. I mean, it's not many people have done it. It's an absolute pain in the neck. It was not a one-man show by any means. I had a nice handful of volunteers, but getting everything about it was a learning experience, especially the after election filings. I would recommend everyone try to do it at least once, but it was fun. But that was it. I had to make. I knew then by running, I knew what Wikipedia was going to say about me. I knew what people were going to say about me, and I knew that people were going to not just prospectively pigeonhole my opinions, but retroactively look back and say, "Oh, he's always been a right winger, a conservative, and therefore we're going to go reinterpret everything he's ever said in light of that." So I knew that was my biggest concern was I can no longer say I'm apolitical in the sense that I haven't run with a party.
Yeah.
But seeing the country in which you were born and raised turn to absolute, can we swear on your channel? Turn to what it's turned into.
Feel free. I mean,
someone's going to clip it anyhow and say Viva's gone potty mouth. Seeing it
Okay.
turn into what I think is an actual, it's a polite tyranny. It's not a North Korean tyranny. It's not a North Korean dictatorship. It's a polite dictatorship. They say that they're taking away your rights for your own protection and your own good. Seeing it turn into that.
Isn't that how it starts, though? Anyway.
Well, I'm sure that people are realizing that, but some, you can never convince someone they're a prisoner if they're in love with their shackles. But having seen Canada turn into that, it's like I have to do it. I have to make my voice known, and it ultimately turned into a very good thing. I'm not shy about expressing what I think, although I still continue to do it in a reasonably polite manner, unless you happen to be one of these tyrannical psychopaths who are running our country, in which case I may use those words.
Yeah. Well, I was aware of your car rants, as I call them, because you'd get in your car and you'd stream and just rant about stuff. But once you started running, I started paying more attention. I'm like, this is exactly what needs to happen for more people to do what he is doing, is actually getting out and running. And like you said, I am getting a little feedback. Would you mind putting your headphones on? Thank you.
This will give me a good. I hope they work today.
Oh, I hope they work. Can you hear me? Or are you still plugged them in yet? Awesome.
Please work.
Hello.
Oh,
testing,
yeah.
Testing. Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
So when I started paying attention to you, I started. Well, this was in a time where I was paying attention to everything, because I myself didn't really listen to politics at all. I was very much in my own world for most of my life. I'm in my late 30s now, so like mid 30s when I joined Tim on his show, I was kind of forced to see everything because we just talked about it every day, and so I started seeing the narrative that they were giving me and how wrong it was. So just like you were kind of showing, like, hey, the PPC, People's Party of Canada, they're not what they're saying it is. I already kind of knew your vibe of the type of person you were. So when you were talking about what was really going on, I'm like, this sounds more realistic, like what would really be happening. And it kind of all came to light in the not Occupy Ottawa, but like the convoy, the Freedom Convoy, and that really just kind of woke a lot of people up.
I was aware of it. I mean, I had been sensitive to it since 2016, seeing Trump, the Trump campaign, the Trump election, Russiagate. That's when I had my, internal red pill, but I didn't like talking about it. One way or another, when you talk politics, you're gonna piss somebody off. It always turns into an ugly fighting match, and so it's just easier to avoid the discussion. I don't think I made very many political tweets until only relatively recently. But like at some point, your literal future depends on whether or not you have this discussion and force people to address these issues. I saw it in 2016. You figure it's never going to come to Canada. It's a nice country and it's a free country and we have freedom of speech, even though I now retrospectively think maybe we never really had that much free speech. But at some point you say, like, you got to get into the fight a little bit, and you've got to, at the very least, make yourself known and hope that if your voice resonates with people, all the better. If it doesn't, it might be done for. But I saw it since 2016 in the US, and it's just it's been spreading everywhere now.
Well, I've seen people have come to me and said, because of my words, they've gone out and started running for office. So I can only imagine the impact that you've had on the people that watch you. You have a bigger platform than I do, and more people need to do that. People have asked me to run, and I think the same. This statement is true for you as well. You're actually making more of an impact by doing what you're doing, going out on the street, talking to people, showing. What's the man's name who's walking across Canada right now?
Oh, James Top.
James Top. Interviewing people like him who are literally walking the walk, to try to bring awareness to this kind of stuff. You're making such an impact.
No, and it's a bizarre world where people need the truth. Some of them don't even know that they need the truth because they think that they're getting it. But then you run into these events, the Ottawa protests, where people who just rely on certain news outlets are just getting absolutely misinformed. And it's like you're trying to wake them up out of the matrix. They don't always respond nicely or politely when you shake them up a little bit and say, you're being lied to. Nobody likes realizing that they have been lied to. And you won't get everybody. You might not even get the majority of the people. But one thing that was clear is that more people were watching Zot walking the streets, auto walks, you Scott, who is it? You Scott. There was another live stream. I forget their names now. But more people were watching. No production value, just straight to the truth. And that's when you know you're reaching people. But then look, the flip depressing side of it is it's at the time now in Canada and in the US where you start having government officials say, we got to control misinformation. We've got to start censoring online speech. We've got to do the soft censorship, the hard censorship. I noticed when I was in Ottawa, my live streams would get systematically demonetized. They'd get remonetized afterwards sometimes. They would get systematically claimed for copyright because there would be music in the background. And you realize how, and I don't think that was done for censorship reasons. You just realize how these things can be weaponized for censorship and how they will be very near time in the future, where you have the government looking to rein in what, the revelatory aspect or the revelatory impact of the internet. And then if that happens in Canada, what do you do? I mean, they can pass legislation to suppress the voices of the people who have been reaching more people than legacy media and giving them the truth. And if they do that, then, life will find a way. But they can, you see how dangerous it is in terms of the government and big tech's ability to stifle off and suffocate the voices that actually are succeeding in reaching people. And you can understand why the government doesn't want it to reach the people.
True. Yeah, they don't want them to know the truth of it all. I mean, fascism, is when big tech and corporations and government get together to control. I mean, who said that? Mussolini or something? I mean, he was a fascist, wasn't he? And I think that's who it was. But
I think it was Mussolini, but at least that's who I heard it attributed to.
Yeah, same. But I mean, we live in a time where it's not even hidden anymore. They're saying we got to do this for the greater good, to save democracy, or I don't know, many of the lines that they drop to try to convince people that that's okay. And it's like, we're losing our freedoms.
No, but people, you get the government and the media convinces enough people that certain speech is actually dangerous. And it starts off with the objectively dangerous, or it starts off with the objectively objectionable. And then slowly it just turns into everything and anything that exposes the government for what it is, exposes the media lies for what they are. It turns into, censor and ban videos because honk honk is now deemed to be not a racial, but an ethnic or a slur. They said it was the HH was Heil Hitler. And so you get to say, hey, if that's the case, go censor anybody who had honk honk in the videos. And then at that point, you lose any independent voice to actually, to expose things for what they are, or to, at the very least, give another perspective. They go silence people because they brand them, deem them to be anti-vaxxers, brand them, deem them to be conspiracy theorists, so that you can then, at the very least, to the mindless masses who are too busy with their daily lives to look into things, say, yeah, sure, Proud Boys are a terrorist group. Sure. Who else? This guy's a conspiracy theorist. He shouldn't be on social media. Why would we give him a voice? And then you realize that slowly but surely, at some point in time, they go with the extreme examples, and then they go with the opposition examples.
Yeah. What do you suggest for like the average person to help make a difference in this environment that we're living in?
It's extremely difficult because on the one hand, people who have standard lives, like employers, sponsors, or people who rely on the system or live within the system, can't speak out, because if they do, they'll lose their job. And then you have people say, well, too bad, lose your job or things are never going to change. Lose your sponsors or things are never going to change. Speak out, get sanctioned at work, get fired, whatever, or things are never going to change. Or lose your friends. People don't want to do it because they don't want to even lose their friends on social media. They don't want the mob harassing them. They don't want any of the pressures that come along with speaking out, because the benefit is too long term to counter the immediate short term pain that it's going to cause. Good point. The only thing you can hope for is that people speak out politely, and that's people, get courage should be a little bit contagious. And if you can just reach a few people at a time, then that goes up exponentially. but having the discussion. The only problem is, I've seen it in my own life, in my own experience. There are some people you will never reach, period. And the problem is that there seem to be more people that you can never reach than people who you can reach.
Yeah.
And the people who you can't reach tend to write off the people who have been reached or can be reached. And it's become very tribalistic. I think, unfortunately, it has to start from the top down. But in order to start from the top down, it's got to go from the bottom up. You got to get elected officials in there who are going to tone things down, who are going to actually unify people and not pull this, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, or Justin Trudeau, those people are putting us all at risk. I mean, you have people who are thriving off the division. And it's been framed in such a way that people feel morally righteous to be on one side of the division versus the other.
Yeah.
So it's just a perfect toxic mix, a vicious circle, or like an ecosystem that's feeding off itself. It's going to take something big to make a change, but a responsible, unifying elected leader would be a good start. But where are you going to find one of those? It looks like we're being governed by the scum of the earth, not the cream of the crop.
Yeah, and it feels like they're all in this club. Like George Carlin said, they're all in one big club and you're not in it. I mean, it really does feel like it.
They're in a club, literally. I mean, they're in the World Economic Forum,
Right.
leaders literally in a club. I mean, just go Google the images of which Canadian politicians they were called the Young Leaders, I think.
Yeah, the World Economic Young Leaders, right.
Yeah, and politics itself is a club. I mean, it's you look at, even in Canadian politics, opposition, the goal of the opposition sometimes is to just look like it's opposition enough to remain in power without actually making the changes to the system that keep these cats real fat. It's even worse in the United States.
Well, in Canada, just recently, when Klaus Schwab said, even in Canada, we have, obviously Trudeau, but not just Trudeau. He stated that like a bunch of people, it's been infiltrated. And then what's even crazier, this was like a week later. You might know who this guy is. I don't know much about Canadian politics, but he stood up in the chamber, whatever, and was like, I want to address what he said. This Klaus Schwab guy said that he infiltrated the government. Why aren't we talking about that? And they shut him down and they said, oh, we're having communications issues, whatever. And then some other guy's like, that's misinformation. Like, get him out of here. And they like moved on to a next subject without even discussing it.
I forget who that was, but I mean, it's a joke. For anybody who's into Canadian politics, if you were watching it was the We Charity scandal. This is, Justin Trudeau's third or fourth official scandal, where he was, this charity had paid his mother and his brother several $100,000 over a couple of years in speaking fees at fundraisers. And this charity, miraculously enough, got a sole sourced, no bid government contract to manage $1 billion in student loans. And I think their fee was like $20 million.
Wow.
So there were investigations into this. And literally, it's during the time of COVID. During these investigations, they're doing these Zoom meetings. Oh, the power goes out. They can't hear. All literally things which were comical. It would be like if this were a stupid movie that no one would believe, this is how they'd write it.
Yeah.
And then, the final kick in the teeth is that Justin Trudeau prorogues Parliament. He basically ends the session of Parliament, which suspends all of these investigations into his corruption, and they reconvene the next session. And lo and behold, all of these committees that were investigating his corruption have been shut down. I mean, it's par for the course, par for the corruption course. But yeah, no, I don't know what that was exactly, but yeah, Klaus Schwab in a very thick, ironic German accent, talking about how he's infiltrated Canadian politics. He has a third of the cabinet. As someone had it in there, it was called Young Global Leaders.
Young Global Leaders, right.
And I can name Chrystia Freeland, who's now the minister of, I don't know what she's a minister of. She's a minister of something.
Macron in France.
But Jagmeet Singh, who's the opposite, who in theory would be opposition.
Is Canadian still, right?
Yeah, this is still Canadian. Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, and there's a few more. You just Google them and they come up. And then you got Macron, from what I understand. There was other rumorings of Putin and whatever. But it's like, the more I remember how wet behind the ears I was. People talking about the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset in 2020, and I, hearing those words, said, "These people sound a little off to me. What's the Great Reset?
Yeah,
it sounds like a conspiracy." Then you realize No, it's actually there, black on white. And then lo and behold, a year after, conspiracy theory becomes confirmed fact. And it's like, yeah, okay, we have annual meetings where we talk about the Great Reset. And then you have the Great Narrative. And then you have, the Premier of Quebec, François Legault, 4 years ago, tweeted out, I just read Klaus Schwab's The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Great book. I mean,
Wow.
when you start realizing things like this, that what is branded by the media as conspiracy, the Great Reset, once upon a time, I don't know if you remember, was a word that got you in trouble on YouTube.
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, there was a time
my
where
YouTube years.
Demonetized. You wouldn't get kicked off the platform. It's just if you mention those words, it would get demonetized. People said it's a conspiracy theory. Google, everybody out there who is too young to remember, politically speaking, Google the Great Reset conspiracy theory. You're going to see articles that refer to the idea of the Great Reset as a conspiracy. And a year later, it's just confirmed fact.
I mean, didn't he write a book in 2016 called The Great Reset?
No, I think that one
or is that the fourth
industrial revolution, and the Great Reset was just on one of their slide patterns. And but it's when you have, it's the idea of having these what's the word I'm looking for? Global entities, unelected, with their own agendas, literally infiltrating national governments.
And bragging about it and talking about it with a point of pride.
Oh yeah, because it's a nice fancy club. They go fly to their conference at Davos, and they rub elbows with other global elites, and they think that they think they're global elites. I think they are. Well, we all know what they think they are, but no, it's just the amazing thing is that I remember hearing these words and saying, you sound a little off to me, and now I can appreciate, to someone who was me 3 years ago, what the me of today sounds like to them, knowing what the person who's me now sounded like to me 3 years ago. So you have to go slow. You have to go slow, and you have to be patient and polite.
True. And that's someone that's, trying to know more, like myself, for example. And obviously you've been through this, and it's a slow process. So imagine the people that don't want to know, that don't want to make a difference, or not necessarily make a difference, but open up them, because you kind of have to want to learn about it a little bit, or else they just say, I don't believe it. It's a conspiracy theory. It's easy to go there.
Can you imagine there are smart people who still think the Covington kids were guilty? There are smart people who still think that Trump colluded with the Russians, because they believed it. So they believed it like they believed in a god, and now they found out that it was a false god that they were believing in, and they can't bring themselves to recognize. It would hurt their ego too much to say, "Holy cows! How naive could I have been that I believe this?" And so it says, shut it out entirely, or find another reason to hate.
Well, and more importantly, what else was I wrong about? What else do I believe that is wrong? If they flick over that one domino of admitting that they were wrong, who knows how many are going to crumble? Cognitive dissonance. Yeah, great.
I know. I'm just looking at someone says Alex Jones was right. It's the old trope. And you're like, Alex Jones was right, but look, it's not turning the frogs gay. It's just doing something biologically that is making them either sterile or or not reproduce with the right sex. And my wife, I don't want to get her in trouble. She's a PhD, and we were listening to it and saying, the way he's expressing it is not, it's hyperbolic, but that's what you have to do to catch people's attention. The cell towers are controlling our thoughts. Okay, controlling in the sense of actual manipulation, no. Interfering with sleep patterns, causing certain issues, yes. Now, if you call that controlling because destruction is a form of control, or interference is a form of control, okay, it can make sense. But Alex Jones, for all of the hyperbolic talk, has been ahead of the curve in a great many material senses. He's made some mistakes,
a lot,
but if you I guess the issue is if you judge people more harshly based on the mistakes, based on the person, well, that's unequal treatment. If making mistakes discredits someone, well, then MSNBC, CNN have been discredited, I would argue, far more than Alex Jones, but
or anyone else, my goodness.
Or anyone else. No, and then just full circle back to government saying we need to control misinformation.
Right.
Well, the first places you start are with your subsidized or state-funded NPR's, BBC, CBC, CNN. I don't know if it's funded. I just don't understand how they've gotten the contract for all the airports.
May not be. Well, they got rid of that contract, I believe, last March, which is why I think a lot of their ratings were plummeting. But that they talk, right? I mean, the White House actually admitted, Jen Psaki said that they're working very closely with Facebook to stop misinformation. And I'm like, so you're admitting you're working with big tech to control speech in America?
Oh,
Like,
and then who was it? Someone's going to remember the name. He filed the lawsuit. The doctor. Oh crap! It doesn't matter. But they have back channels. They have back channel discussions between government and big tech. Big tech with monopolies over public square, what I would refer to more as utilities than private services. It's Barnes and I, Robert Barnes, we do our live streams. We talk about it all the time. It's like at a certain point, when the government is giving directions, and even in some cases under the threat of regulation for compliance, I mean, these big tech monopolies, they become branches or arms of the government. I don't know what it takes for a court to recognize that, but they're saying it in plain sight. But the way they phrase it is in such a way that people who use Facebook to talk to Granny don't mind. Well, of course you got to censor. Of course you got to fact check. And then you find out that the fact checkers have contracts with Facebook. And then you find out that the fact checkers, they're directing that when they do the fact check, they direct traffic from amazingly popular channels to their own channels. So these are literal parasites who are, on the one hand, we now know they're also opinions, because it was in the Facebook lawsuit that the fact checkers are actually opinions when they do fact check. So they are contracted by the company with a monopoly to parasitically siphon off traffic from popular channels to their own fact checks under the guise of fact checking. They stand to benefit financially on both ends, and people are going to say that this is how information should be governed in the modern era. I mean, this is exactly what fascism in the true sense is: the government telling the big tech monopolies what to do with information and where to direct them to get what the government deems to be reliable sources.
Yep. Well, let's talk about something positive. You just mentioned Barnes. So Viva Barnes is like like it's a phrase unto itself, because that's kind of like your channel, Viva Barnes. And you guys actually, for those listening, you can, in the description below is the Viva Barnes Locals, which is where you guys post a lot of your stuff. When did you guys meet? Where did that partnership come about?
Total the beauty of the internet. The people I've met through the internet as a result of content. I mean, I've met I'd say a dozen, and they've become good friends. I met Barnes because back in the day, I started with the Alex Jones deposition, but I didn't even understand at the time that Barnes was the lawyer in the background of that deposition. At one point, you could hear that frantic, incompetent lawyer saying, "I love your work, Mr. Barnes," and I heard it, just never put it together. Yeah. Then I started covering the Covington kids, and it was in the analysis of Nicholas Sandman more so than the Covington kids, but Barnes was representing the Covington Catholic kids, not Nicholas Sandman. He was being represented by Lynn Wood. And I was doing some analyses of it. And one of us reached out to the other. I think he reached out to me on Twitter or retweeted something along those lines, very innocuous. Then I reached out to him and said, "Barnes, would you come on and do a live stream?" He came on. We did, it was the first live stream I ever did with him. Talked about his life, growing up, where he's from, all that stuff. And then we did a second, a third, a little later on. And then when COVID hit, we start, and I'm locked in my freaking basement for 12, weeks on end. And at one point, at night even, I started doing more consistent live streams. And then, Barnes just came on more regularly. People loved it. And we made a thing of it. And then it blossomed into what we have now on Locals, which is vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And it's the most fortuitous meeting, and it's turned into an amazing friendship, an amazing relationship. And, I have learned, I think if I have learned as much as people have learned from the channel, let me rephrase that. If people have learned from my channel as much as I've learned from Barnes, then you can't ask for a better gift than that. But I've learned from Barnes. I've learned from his knowledge. I've learned from his way of seeing the world. I've learned from his method of analysis. I don't always agree with him. I mean, I don't vigorously disagree with him on a great many things, but it's just been the most fulfilling relationship that you can imagine, that was born out of nowhere. And we were friends for 2 years online before I met him for the first time when we met up in at Tim Pool's place to do the podcast together.
Oh, cool! Right on. That's
nice. That's it. We met online. The streams have just turned into, a ritual, a therapeutic ritual if not for Barnes, he's pretty calm and relaxed. It's turned into a therapeutic ritual for me, and I think for the community. Like we were all losing our respective minds. We're losing our faith during the last 2 years, and I think it's helped restore it for me. It's helped at the very least stabilize my anxiety of the world, and if it's been able to do that for other people, I mean that would be a gift on its own.
Yeah, he really does exude calmness when he's talking about things, and he's quite jolly. Even when he's talking about, serious issues, he maintains a good demeanor. I really like the vibe that I get from
Yeah, I mean,
Barnes.
he sees things in a cosmic sense, where I only see things in my own mental universe sense. So I have difficulty taking myself out of my assessment of the world. Barnes seems to see things, throughout the history of humankind, where I'm only I'm focused and concerned with my own existence and the existence of those I care about. Barnes sees things on a much longer scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, well, let's. I want to find out more about you. So I right before we went live, actually, you were moving some stuff and you had a bunch of gavels. Those are gavels, right?
These are I tried for the individual who gave the paintings. I took them off because I think the camera was auto-focusing on the stuff in the background. So don't be offended if you're watching now.
I told him to move them.
No, then I'm trying to move the gavels and all of these gavels. These are awards that I got in university, in law school. And I got one in the first year, which was for the student representative. I got one in the second year, which was for something other. And then I got two in my third year. Okay, about me. Born and raised in Montreal, Anglophone, Jewish for anybody who's concerned, but I'm not very secular. I may be spiritual, but definitely not religious. But I do respect religion. So I'm an Anglo in Quebec.
What does that mean?
And I'm born English.
Okay.
Quebec is a French province, or it's bilingual technically, but it's a predominantly French province. So I went to this place called Université Laval, which is Laval University. It's in Quebec City. 99% French Canadian, and I went to study in French because I never had any intention ever of leaving this province. I loved it. I think I could love it again, but I don't love it right now under current management.
Understood.
So I went to this law school after I did my undergrad at McGill in philosophy. Youngest of 5 kids. 4 of the 5 kids turned out to be lawyers. My father's a lawyer. Mother, stay-at-home mom, but she used to be a teacher.
Wow.
I went to this university. It's a French university, and I was like one of a handful of Anglo kids. And I said I made it my objective to be involved in student life. In the first year, became the first year student representative. Second year was the editor-in-chief of the Law Journal. Third year ran for and became the president of the Law Student Association. So these gavels were sort of awards for students who got highly involved in bettering student life. But I've loved them. I've kept them I'll keep them forever unless I lose them.
Yeah, why not? That's awesome. It's a point of pride for sure. You did good in your schooling.
No, that's it. And this is what else. I mean, got married, been dating my wife since 1999, with a slight pause when I went to Paris for the year, but then we got back together. Got married, 3 kids, and those two special needs dogs, but Winnie the blind Westie and Pudge the paralyzed puggle.
Yeah, they have their own little fame, don't they? Yeah. I saw a video that I don't know if it was recent. You went to a maple syrup spot, a sugar shack, and that was so cool.
It's so this is my brother-in-law's girlfriend's farm out. For anybody who knows, in Quebec, it's called where they are is in Cowansville, if anybody knows, and I think it's near Pinnacle Mountain. It's a farm. They produce syrup seasonally. Lamb. They gave me a lamb testicle, which I made a cooking video for on my other channel. But it was a bona fide, it was a Walter White sugar shack. It wasn't like for anybody who knows what sugar shacks are, they're commercial. You go to them, they give you soup, they give you fried bacon skin and all the stuff, and and syrup on snow, and they're for tourists. This was in the woods. We had to walk through literal, animal crap and mud. No electricity. It had a generator, and they were literally boiling the syrup from bucket to tree into this canister, boiling it down, and they make 1,000 bottles of pure maple syrup a year. This is beautiful. But the world is, I say the world is beautiful when it doesn't get ruined by by people. And that was the content that I used to put on my channel only until it turned into the vlog VLAWG.
Well, I like that kind of content. I actually I live on I just got a house recently, and I live right on a river across from a forest, and I have all these beautiful things, and I don't focus on that. And I this has been a I don't want to say a tough week. It was an awakening week for me because I really realized how much I was letting in that negative energy from what is going on in the world and kind of letting it affect me. And I over the past couple days, especially, I realized I need to really focus on the good in my life, the good things that I have. And, when I saw that video, I was like, I love that. Like, I want to do stuff like that. I want to like even just walk through the forest and just make a video of me walking through the forest and showing off my forest because it's beautiful. And I feel like more people need to be reminded that the world is in fact beautiful. And most people want that.
No, well, do you have salamanders in your river?
There's I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Look for it. I think you might be shocked because these mountain rivers have salamanders, and when you find certain life forms like turtles, everyone's used to. Snakes, people still find unique because they're rare. If you find salamanders in there and some of them grow big, I mean, your mind might be blown. But this is the dilemma. Like we're in a sphere of news, of politics, of law, where we're in a sphere of the interwebs that is psychologically tolling. You're sort of surrounded by the depressing stuff, the ugly stuff in the world. And I wish I could go back to a point where I didn't care about, I mean, literally that I didn't care about it. But I think it is the burden that you bear, Adam, from having, stepped outside of the matrix, is you can't go back to not caring.
True.
And you can't ever go back to just, it's a beautiful forest.
Yeah. Well, and you're a father too, right? I think I have not yet entered fatherhood, but my wife and I are planning on it soon. And I think
practice makes perfect. To use the old joke.
Eliza Blue, I love her. She's fantastic. She was on my show on Tuesday, and we were talking about it. And I kind of had a realization that because my wife got a job in our new spot, and like that's kind of what we were waiting for. Now that she kind of solidified that, like, oh, okay, well, now we actually can now have kids. So there was like all right, it's going to be a reality soon. So I kind of had an emotional moment where I'm like, I'm realizing that because I want the world to be an amazing place, and all I'm seeing is this negative stuff. I'm like worried for my future children because I want to give them a world to live in that I trust, right? And that I currently don't trust the world.
No, I had an odd visual of you crying while trying to make the babies, like conflicted about crying about the future while trying to do this. No, but the first thing is, having a kid is not a thought out, reasoned thing. You just do it. You have
good point.
Without being crass. You remove whatever protection you have, and then you just do it, and then things just happen, and you live with it afterwards. If you think about it for too long, it is sort of like it's the jumping off the cliff, the bungee cord, or jumping onto the roller coaster. Think about it for too long, you just won't do it. And the bottom line, it doesn't make sense even after you've done it. But you do it, and then you can never understand what life was like beforehand. But in terms of you start to think about the future a lot more when you have a kid. Your consciousness expands. When you're married, it expands to your spouse. When you have kids, it expands to the kids. And it's an additional burden. It's an additional stress. You start to see the world a little bit differently. The risks that you were willing to put up with, you're not necessarily willing to put up with for your kids.
Yeah.
But that's the only way. I think it's the ultimate. Responsibilizing is not a word, but you know what I mean. It's the ultimate method of making an adult responsible. Is you give them another generation to think about, and not just another generation in abstract them, their own flesh and blood, an extension of themselves that they're now worried about, not for anything related to their own benefit, but only for the benefit of their children. I think most people will behave differently. You still have your, people who are irresponsible. But the interesting thing is, like, when you look at the amount of politicians who don't have kids and who are making decisions that will impact kids that they don't have, or a future that they don't have to be concerned about, I think it definitely impacts their decision making. In the same ways, a drama teacher who's never run a business, who's never had to worry about money, who has no business experience whatsoever, well, I don't think he's going to make the as educated decisions for small business as someone who knows what it's like to run a business in a highly regulated, government
That's
society.
Trudeau. That's Trudeau, right?
Yes, I'm not talking about Biden. Biden, I don't know what Biden did before his 40 years in office, but
don't get me started on Biden. Oh my goodness.
But no, dude, just do it.
My.
Don't think about it. And the other thing is from the woman's perspective, a 33-year-old woman is young, but when it comes to baby making, people, you get old quickly. Like 35, you're already at a high risk age for pregnancy.
Right.
So just do
it. Have you been harassed at all? Have you said that you were kind of demonized a little bit by the media when you ran for office. And then, of course, when you were doing your live streams in Ottawa, you were getting a lot of viewers. So a lot of people were watching you. And I feel like not all of them were on your side.
The funny thing is, I'm so stupid and naive that I like to think that I could even make friends with an enemy, or I could make friends with someone who doesn't like me. When I've never gotten harassed in person.
Okay.
You get middle fingers every now and again, but
okay.
I mean, the other thing is, I practiced law for 13 years. I've gotten more meaningful harassment from the practice of law, where you're actually actively involved in destroying someone's life. I mean, not your own clients, but people don't appreciate. You're suing someone for millions of dollars. You're trying to evict a tenant. You're just the lawyer, but you're the player in a play of someone who's actively trying to ruin someone else's life, but
Right.
for legally justified reasons. I met people in Ottawa who didn't like me. I think when I was interviewing the counter protesters, I got a bad vibe from one of them, but I still like to think that I'm naive enough to think that if I'm respectful in my disagreement, that even my adversaries will respect that. And generally speaking, I think that's the case. But I've noticed certain subject matter always gets a little more of an emotional or aggressive response.
Yeah.
And then it's again bending slowly, not quickly enough to break. Is you get used to it. You get used to navigating the responses. You get used to dealing with negative responses. I mean, before, when I used to make videos about random stuff, I'd get hate, especially when I made cooking videos with meat. You get hate from people who say, you're killing an animal. It's terrible. Be a good example for your kids. You'll always get hate for something. So you may as well just get hate for doing what you think is right.
I like that. It's funny. I am curious. How was was it a lamb? It was a lamb testicle. How was it?
Well, we've got a joke in our family that I've now tasted they're called I've tasted the balls of. We had a lamb, we had a bull, we had a bison. The bison was inedible, and I think it's because
really
the meat. I think it was just because it was too old. The meat dealer we used to get meat from this guy. He's like, hey, someone ordered bison balls and never picked them up. I was like, oh, I'll take them, and I thought he was going to just give them to me, but they were like $12. They were the size of a grapefruit.
Wow.
No, dude, massive. In fact, I think. I won't go look for it now, but I'm fairly certain I made a video about it. If you go to Viva fried bison balls, you'll get, or amourette. Those were inedible. They tasted too metallic but prairie oysters are delicious. And I do have a philosophy also that I eat meat. I don't like killing anything unnecessarily, and I believe you eat every part of the animal in as much as you can. But they were tender.
Okay, so what you're saying is fresh balls are the way to go.
That is my conclusion, because the lamb ball that I got from my brother-in-law's girlfriend, it was fresh, it was local. That being said, slice everything up thin enough and batter it and fry it up in butter or oil. Anything is going to be edible. I mean, you could literally eat tin foil and it'll be edible. But someone says, how did this subject come up? Sorry. So yes, I have tasted a lot of bizarre things. When I made the video of the ostrich egg, I started getting people who were seriously saying, I just killed an endangered species. I killed a baby of an animal. And then you realize, like, you try to talk to people. People don't realize that eggs are unfertilized, typically will never become a baby. Ostriches are not endangered species, and we actually have an ostrich farm here in the province of Quebec that sells the meat. So that's when I try to, I do my best, whether it's meat or politics, to engage with people. But over the course of time, you realize who is there to sincerely engage and who is there just to be a real pain in the neck. Yeah, and try to distract you from what your objective is.
Well, that's the internet, and that'll never go away, no matter how much they try to censor anything. It's always going to exist. It's the internet. The glory of the internet. It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
And if anybody wants to go down a rabbit hole, go Google an ostrich laying an egg. It's
Do I want to know?
It's not it's shocking.
Those are large eggs.
It's got to come out of somewhere. It comes and it's anyhow. It's fascinating. I'll say it that way.
Interesting. Well, there's a bunch of super chats. We're about an hour in, and I saw some good questions that we might talk about. So first, we got Smile More that says Viva and Tim Pool won a Shorty Award in 2013. Oh, he's saying Tim Pool.
Oh yeah, no, but I won't say Tim Pool. I'll say probably won it for a much more legitimate reason than my. I think I fluked out, but hey, I won't say no to a fluke.
Don't sell yourself short. Jeff K celebrating 20 months as a member. Wow, Jeff, that's a long time. Thank you so much for that support. Says Viva la Viva Frei or Viva Frei. So it's funny. I wanted to ask you about that Viva Frei. I heard Viva Frei for like months on end because that's how Tim said it, and I didn't know who you were at the time, so it was Viva Frei for me. And then I actually heard you say it's Viva Frei, and I'm like, okay, so it's Viva Frei. I'm going to say it the way the man himself says it.
It's half of my last name, Freiheit or Freiheit. So phonetically, but by the way, I grew up with my last name as Freiheit, Freiheit. Growing up with a Germanic last name in Quebec. I'm used to mispronunciations. I couldn't care less. No, and there's no but. I don't care. The only reason I care is that people feel uncomfortable. They think they've embarrassed me or themselves. I don't care. What I was going to say is, and then back in the day when I was building the channel, my family, friends, I said change the name. Viva sounds like Vivian. Frei, they're going to mispronounce it, and I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn, and also had no idea what would become of the channel. So, but everything happens for a good reason. Even the mispronunciation itself, I won't say is good for content, but it's it makes for discussion, it makes for engagement, and good accidents.
Well, Viva, like what does Viva mean? It's like like a celebration, like glory to this or something, right? Or I don't know the direct translation.
It was live free. I mean, basically, it was live free. And at one point, it was going to be Viva Frei, live free or die. And then someone said, rightly so, don't have any, I know it's the New Hampshire license plate, but no need to have any negativity in your branding. So I just kept it Viva Frei, and it stubbornly took to it, or stubbornly stayed with it. And it's become my unofficial second name. I respond to Viva when people call it out in the street.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Sebastian Monroe says, a stream with Viva Frei on my birthday? Thanks. Well, happy birthday, Sebastian.
Happy birthday.
Right on. Master Malrubius. That's a cool word. Malrubius. Had to say it again. For $20 says, this is awesome. Follow the Fro and the Crigler show. It's sad that we in the United States look to Canada as some morally superior nation. We have learned what that much power in personal issues brings G's in the end.
It's an amazing thing that people look. I see the way the United States looks to Canada, but I guess shouldn't overgeneralize. The Americans look to Canada in two different ways. On one end of the spectrum, people look at Canada and say no free speech, no Second Amendment rights. You live in basically a polite dictatorship, although they've never coined that. That's my term now. The other side says universal healthcare. It's a paradise. We want to move to Canada. There are more people leaving Canada now than at any point, I think, in the last 20, 25 years.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, like, both views in a way are true. We have universal healthcare. It just happens to suck if you need something, urgent or serious.
Do you have private healthcare also?
Yes, yes, we do. We do have private healthcare, so you can go to, if you can afford it, you go to a clinic, and it makes sense. People have always made the argument that private healthcare takes a doctor away from the public system. No, it doesn't. It takes a patient away from the public system. So someone who can afford it gets it from a private clinic and leaves that place open for someone, in the public sphere who doesn't have the means. That's the ideal compromise in my mind. But no, people look at the public healthcare and say it's great. It's free healthcare. And I always say, and I said it during my campaign, if you say it's free, you're just not understanding how it's paid for. It might be free the moment you go in, but you've paid for it if you paid taxes, and you've paid for it in the order of 22% of whatever taxes you've paid to the government. And so if you pay $100,000 in taxes, you've paid $22,000 a year for free healthcare, whether or not you used it. In the United States, the idea is keep your $22,000, and take care of your own healthcare. But you got some other big problems in terms of pricing of the healthcare system in the United States. But
yeah, tell me about it.
Rant over.
Well, a lot of those people don't understand that there is, in fact, private healthcare as well. They and I think that's a good system. Like Bernie Sanders loves to talk about Sweden, and in Sweden they also have private healthcare and a public system as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and the universal healthcare in Canada is so great that when people get really sick, they run down to the Mayo Clinic or they run down to the States to get private treatment and quality treatment in good settings. And the universal healthcare in Canada is so good that all the doctors are, they go from the certain provinces to other provinces, and then they go from Canada to the United States so they can actually go make, the living that they can make elsewhere in working conditions that are much better than what we have here. Tell everybody, I haven't cut my hair. I just, there it is. Okay. I'll just.
There. Wow. Yeah. That just, there it is.
I took a shower right before doing this stream and I put in the stuff. So it was flattened down, but now I'm, okay, there we go. It's still there, people. Don't worry.
And I want to add, I'm glad that you went, I think the chat, you did a poll once in your stream, like, should you cut the hair? Because you had the new avatar with like the flaming hair. And I think it's fantastic. I just wanted to say, I'm glad you kept it.
The amazing accents, like that avatar, we only used the design for a shirt. And then one day when I was going to Ottawa, I was like, crap, I don't have a thumbnail, and I don't want that the original placeholder thumbnail from back in the day was my entire family. It's like, geez, I'll just take that. I'll take that shirt. It just happened to be the circle over the head itself, and it didn't say Viva Frei. And I was like, holy crab apples. This is it. Just cross-branding against all platforms, and no one's ever going to make a mistake as to who I am again, or which channel they're on.
But you can't get rid of the fro, though.
No, well, I don't think I'm going to. The only problem is if it gets long enough for a ponytail, we might have to. We'll see. But that'll be another 6 months.
Then you trim it down to fro length again. You get, you got that perfect middle ground.
But the amazing accidents is just like I've never worried about branding, really. I've never worried about the blue check marks. But the funny thing, and it all happened at the same time. This great branding. It's like, holy cows, that's going to look good cross-platform. And then I happened to get verified on Twitter. It's like it's you can't plan this stuff, and you have to ride the wave when it comes.
Yep, awesome. Well, it's good to see. We need more people in the world that speak out like you do.
I like to pretend. I like to hope I do it nicely and respectfully. I've lost my patience with the politicians. But I like to think with individual humans. There's nothing. I don't have anything against punching up, but I like to hope that I'm still respectful, even to my fellow humans with whom I disagree or who might disagree with me.
No, I mentioned that in the beginning. How you're very good at, even when someone mentions something in a super chat. You're very good at going. Now that's a little on the extreme. Let's bring it back to the center and kind of look at it on all sides. I think you're very good at doing that. And that what that is doing is those moderates or the people that are like, do I agree with this statement, or am I immediately my defense mechanism, is it going to trigger and just ignore everything? That kind of attitude is going to kind of coax people to, or, maybe I'll listen for 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes, or watch another episode.
I think it's the lingering training from the practice of law, and I learned it. I used to be younger, but I used to be much more aggressive in law. And you'd get in front of a judge and you'd call opposing counsel a liar. You say he's hiding evidence, and the judges don't like it. And then you realize, on the one hand, it's not a successful strategy. And on the other hand, it actually just ruins the practice itself. You call a lawyer a liar in front of a judge, good luck dealing with that lawyer on an ongoing basis, even if you think they're a liar. And I learned this lesson from a lawyer. If I don't think he's watching, but he might know who he is. I learned this tactic from a lawyer who I think, very much walked the line, if not pushed it, but did it in such a manner. He was so polite. He was so innocent the way he forgot things, the way he didn't communicate, the way he would insult you but pretend he didn't do it. I didn't ever want to replicate that, but you do realize that when you get in front of a judge, to be efficient and to convey your message, you can't just get out there, you go, guns blazing, call the other guy a liar, dishonest, malicious, all this other stuff, bad faith. You have to do it in a different manner. And at the very least, when you're engaged in an argument with another person, instead of jumping around and saying you're a liar, you know what you're talking about, back it up and just stick to the issues, because that's, at the end of the day, all that a judge really cares about. They don't care about the fighting. And I think if more people adopted that strategy in interhuman discourse, it would make for more fruitful discourse. But that's not what gets, tweets and retweets in the social media verse.
Sadly, I agree 100%. We got another one from Master Malrubius for 20. Again, thank you so much, Master. Have you ever seen an addict come around after Narcan? The abrupt loss of their high drives them into a rage. I'm not surprised people are upset when they find their ideology confronted with reality.
It's interesting that I'll consult with my neuroscientist wife in terms of there is the swinging of the pendulum, even in terms of reaction and counter reaction from a neurological perspective, no doubt. Right. I've never had that experience, but you do have people, the more you push and the more you push them to recognize that they made a mistake, very rarely do they self-reflect and say, yeah, you're right. They push back, and they push back harder. So it is a way of, old expression my brother said, to get a knot out, you can't just keep pulling on both ends of the rope. You have to push at some point.
Right. That's a good point. Robin Savi-Skogel, this is actually my mother, by the way. My mom just super chatted for 10. Thanks, Mom. Says, Viva, what was the outcome after your ridiculous arrest with Millie Weaver for that Shadowgate video? By the way, awesome conversation today. Thanks for your wisdom and crazy good energy.
The Millie Weaver. So I was never arrested. I think she meant the arrest of Millie Weaver. I think they dropped the charges. I have to Google that.
Did they? They dropped the charges on her.
I have to Google it. My goodness. This is I will not be happy unless I do this now. Millie Weaver.
Go for it. Yeah, that's fine.
Charges. Let's just see.
I remember when she was arrested.
Pleads not guilty. I remember there was a I'll have to Google it. I can't remember what happened. All that I remember is that the arrest itself, and then detaining her over the weekend and trying to get her kids into CPS. There were a number of conspiracy theories that, and I say this with respect. I don't say this there were a number of theories as to the timing of the arrest.
Yeah. It was right after she released the freaking Shadowgate video.
There was an issue about why she was arrested. And I think people may have, I think a lot of people made the connection that she was arrested for the robbery, which had to do with potentially confidential information, which it didn't. That's what it was. Okay. At the time she was arrested, we didn't know what the charges were, but it was deemed to be robbery. I think she said robbery, and people were hypothesizing that the robbery related to confidential information that made its way into the documentary. At the end of the day, the robbery was a fight that she had with her mother-in-law, who came to live with her, or her mother, from California during COVID, and the robbery related to her cell phone because apparently the mother started taking pictures. So a lot of people, and myself included, assumed or jumped to the conclusion that the robbery was about confidential information and made the link to Julian Assange and criminalizing journalism, when in reality it was just a family dispute. But that was the kitsch to it.
I have this is actually one of my best friends in my life. He goes as Nacho Business. Says, big fan, Viva. I'm actually skipping ahead a little bit, but you mentioned Julian Assange. He actually asks here, what are your thoughts about the extradition of Julian Assange? What do you know about Seth? Well, I can't talk about that. I'm going to actually skip that second question, because that's a delicate subject on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the SR, I believe.
Yeah. Well, but what do you think about Julian, though? So I think we should free him immediately.
I at the risk of, this is another one where I didn't realize that people were very, torn about this. A lot of people say he revealed military secrets and put soldiers at risk. And these are people who are in the military. A lot of people say, dude's a journalist. If you can't whistleblow on government corruption and literal war crimes by your government, well then, congratulations, you've just given immunity to the government to commit war crimes.
Right.
I think that call me whatever names you want. I now, in retrospect, understand and believe in my own mind that the charges of sexual assault against him were an absolute setup. It was it was an excuse. It was whether or not he got honeypotted. I think they were an absolute sham. I believe he should not. He should be released. The damage is done now. The man is a broken man psychologically and physically, and has had 10 years of his life stolen.
Yeah.
But he should have never been prosecuted or persecuted in the way that he was. I appreciate that people think he released confidential information. That's first of all, if it's war crimes, that's of interest to the entire world.
Yeah.
I don't think that he participated in any criminal act or incited it in any criminal manner.
Yeah.
But they've made an example out of him. Like this is the anybody who's thinking of doing what Julian Assange did is going to think twice about it, having seen what happened to Julian Assange. But the problem is now you get enough people doing it that they can't go after all of them with the way they went after Julian Assange. He was the sole nail sticking up at the time, and now there might be a lot more nails sticking up that you can't just come down whacking them with a hammer. But no, I think he should be out. He should never have been in the position that he was in the first place.
The crazy thing about that is all these people that are against Julian Assange think that he's the one who actually released the information, which he didn't. Chelsea Manning sent the information to WikiLeaks, and WikiLeaks had it, and someone within WikiLeaks leaked it, and Julian Assange wasn't that person, and actually reached out to the U.S. government and said, "This information we have it. I don't know what to do with it yet, but it's there. I want you to be aware of it because it actually implicates a lot of people. A lot of people will get in trouble for this information and may get hurt by what's in this. It's being leaked, and I want you guys to be aware of it." And they arrested him, and they were like, "It's your fault," and put it on him.
Yeah, I'll just take it one step further. That even if Julian Assange were the one who knowingly released it, it's WikiLeaks is his entity. He'll be responsible for what it does.
Correct.
Just assume that he did it voluntarily. Okay.
Exactly. Good point.
Once upon a time, journalism was obtaining newsworthy and ultimately national interest information and releasing it. What I do not believe is that Julian Assange partook in any criminal activities by encouraging or facilitating Chelsea Manning from stealing the information. So if anyone broke the law, Manning did. Fine.
Yeah.
Julian Assange did what the Pentagon Papers did. I forget his name. So the fact that it was extremely embarrassing, that did in fact reveal crimes of the U.S. government. Well, I mean, that's why it needed to be released. That's not why it needed to be covered up by the government. So imagine if every other thing, Tuskegee experiments, if they had to conceal that and criminalize anybody who disclosed that information, MK Ultra, things. If they criminalize whistleblowing of the government, you basically immunize the government to commit whatever atrocities it wants, and then to persecute those who reveal the atrocities. No, I mean
there's a reason Twitter got rid of Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, because he's kind of carrying that mantle right now of revealing.
There's a reason why Twitter got rid of Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, why they shut down the New York Times, the New York Post article on the Hunter Biden story. There's no question. And what you end up having, I mean, basically you have actors ex post facto covering up crimes. You have actors in real time interfering with elections. It's a crazy world, but they really got away with it with Julian Assange, and that's when you see the propaganda war machine in full force. You have people out there saying he's a rapist. He went into hiding to duck the charges on the rape, the sexual assault. It was called stealthing, which is when you allegedly go and break or remove the condom in the act of sex. That's a form of assault in Sweden, I believe. Adam, give me 1 second. I'm going to get the dog in here. Do you
Absolutely,
hear the dog? Do you hear the dog barking?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Yeah, go get him. Yeah, that's cool. Totally fine. Man, what a pleasure to have Viva on the show. I've been watching Viva for a long time. And thank you all for joining and hanging out this whole time.
Yeah.
This is great.
Okay.
There he is.
Dog. And it's a loud, high pitch yap, and it's very, very annoying. Say it.
Yeah.
Say it for the world. Yes.
He's like, no, I got what I wanted.
He's in. He's getting the belly rub.
Yeah.
No, but
so wait. Which one is this? Which
is
dog?
Winnie the blind Westie. So we'll see.
Winnie
He's
the
not blind
Westie.
because of the hair. If you could see his eyes, he's got it's an eye condition. It's like cataracts of sorts, but inoperable and from the age of a puppy. So he was a rescue. And the paralyzed Puggle was my sister-in-law's dog. Got paralyzed from a slip disc, and she couldn't take care of the dog, so we took it. And 6 years later, the damn dog is still alive.
Awesome. That's cool.
You go here. There we go. But Assange. I mean, that's another one of the red pills where you realize the war machine, the slander war machine, to defame these individuals in real time, so that what they did becomes secondary. It just becomes a question of demonizing them and discrediting them to the public. That's what I never appreciated it until well into the Julian Assange scandal. And then you go back and you reassess anybody gets in, anybody becomes relevant, some form of assault charges come up from however long ago. I mean, Kavanaugh would have been another example of that very strategy in real time.
Yeah, that's true. We got one from Low Watermark for $50. Thank you so much for that support. Says Adam and Viva, two of the best people online. What a nice compliment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Chet Chisholm, how you doing, man? Says, I'm so happy to see my favorite American and second favorite Canadian. Sorry,
Who's the first?
Viva. I have a niece.
I thought it was Jordan Peterson first, and that would have been a good first as well.
Podcasting together. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Jordan Peterson's fantastic. I really, man, what a Canadian treasure he is. 30 shots for a bunch of Canadians coming in. This is cool. This is a message for everyone in Ontario. Big convoy from Ottawa to Niagara Falls on Saturday, April 16th. North American Unity Rally. Hold the line. Cool. I haven't heard about that.
So there's two. There's going to be a bike rally. I think let's call it a protest, coming in, I think, at the end of the month. But Toronto to Niagara Falls, that might be a good excuse to go visit my two brothers who live in Toronto. We'll see.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. Start live streaming it. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I want to.
Yeah.
But now that at what point does the government determine that I am participating and freeze bank accounts?
Oh my goodness!
They make the example through the first traumatic experience, and then they hope that people get sufficiently traumatized. I think I'm stubborn enough and defiant enough that I'm going to go and continue documenting reality.
Trudeau did rescind those emergency powers, didn't he? Or did he not?
He rescinded them a week after invoking them and a week after implementing them, basically. So he instructed banks to freeze bank accounts.
It's crazy.
He brought in a militarized police force, which I'm sure, I won't say it would have made Kim Jong-un jealous, because I think Kim Jong-un is probably next level. But he imagine bringing in a militarized police force to violently break up a peaceful protest while talking about other authoritarian dictators employing excessive force in their own areas. Yeah.
Did you see the Indian news podcast, or not podcast? Like, it was a broadcast from an Indian news media. It was this woman who was calling out Trudeau specifically. It was like an 8-minute segment, because Trudeau went to India when there was a bunch of protests that the Pakistani government were actually funding. Or at least this is what she was saying. And she said that Trudeau came and was like walking amongst the protesters and like had this big speech about how you have to let protests be a thing. And like, you have to listen to the people and hear what they have to say and like go out among and she's like, how dare he come to our country and say this? And look what he's doing right now.
I haven't seen that one. I just saw, what happened in Europe at the members of European Parliament.
Oh my goodness.
Utterly destroying Justin Trudeau. But this is the amazing thing. Utterly destroying Justin Trudeau. 4 of them gave the most eviscerating public tongue lashings you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
When Trudeau gives his speech to the European Parliament, it's 3/4 empty. And what do you have in Canada? Well, the CBC comes back and says that Justin Trudeau gave a speech and got a standing ovation, and then they got so chewed out in their comment section they had to attenuate it to, he got a warm welcome, and they don't talk about these 4 speeches. I put out that video. I think it got just, it's a 5-minute unedited montage of the 4 speeches.
I played some of it on my show, actually.
300 some odd thousand views, because people are not getting it from the media that's supposed to be doing its job, not kissing the ring of the hand that feeds them. I just mixed up 2 analogies there, but
it works.
Imagine if Trudeau has his way, the only people reporting or not reporting on meaningful news are going to be the ones that he's paying to either report on specific news or not report on specific news. And that's you want to talk about combating misinformation, that's where you start. You start with state-funded propaganda.
Yep. Wow. Low Watermark became a member. Thank you so much. I've got a new member bell that one of my chat members sent me.
That is beautiful. That looks like an actual antique bell.
It is. It's actually from a hotel, like back in the day when they had like real bells.
Flip it. Where's it made? Is it made in England?
It actually has no marks anywhere. Surprisingly enough, you'd think that something like this would have a mark somewhere. I don't think so. Yeah, no.
This funny thing is, I just watched Road Trip the other day while jogging, and there was that scene where Andy Dick is behind the counter, and the dad comes in and rings the bell, and Andy Dick just takes the bell and puts it under the counter. So brought back a memory.
Classic. The Last Crow says, finally used alt tech for the last video I made. Feels great to speak freely. Can you give me a shout out? The Last Crow without any special characters. What alt tech though?
Does he mean Rumble?
Could be Rumble. Yeah, I mean, Rumble seems to be where people are going. Odyssey, a lot of people I like Odyssey. I like Rumble. I haven't really started using it. I did make a couple videos for that, but
does well, I mean, for the CPM, if that matters, that's cost per mil, like the advertising revenue on Rumble. It seems decent. I don't know how Odyssey works. If it's just
yeah, Odyssey is
fan support.
Well, they have their own. And they actually were fighting with the FEC, I think, or
so they have their own coins.
It's a crypto, some crypto money that they have. Check out The Last Crow. It's probably Rumble. It could be not DLive. It's probably Rumble or Odyssey. Those are like the 2. BitChute also a lot of people use. I'm actually waiting to see if he comments in chat. Tag me in chat, and I'll you don't have to super chat me again. Just let me know, and I'll let you know. Fluffer Boy says, posted my gaming clips to Rumble as Lord of the Re with 3 E's. Cool, nice. I love this. You guys make content. It's freeing, even if no one watches it. It's still something cool about getting out there and having a voice. It's important. Were you going to add something there?
No, I was going to say, I'm just looking at the chat. I see, who is asshole? I love reading the chat. The chat is a source of infinite humor, infinite knowledge, and every now and again, infinite trolling. But it's a beautiful universe nonetheless.
I agree 100%, and I love my chat so much. I adore them. Seriously, every day they show up for me, and it's incredible. I mean, I do a daily show Monday through Friday, so and I see a lot of the same people that just really, you guys, seriously, thank you all very much. It's great, the support that I feel from you all. Aaron B for 10 says, Crigler plus Viva, fantastic. Much love from Montana. I have never been to Montana.
And I was just thinking, Montana, I am told, is the most beautiful place on earth, especially for people who like fly fishing.
Yeah.
My bucket list item, other than catching a sturgeon, is to drive across America in if not in an RV, maybe a Westphalia van and pitch a tent. I want to drive across the country. And there's talk about whether or not we do it this summer. So with any luck, bucket list item is coming this month. Driving through Montana. I want to see the Grand Tetons. I want to go to Yellowstone. I want to go back to the Grand Canyon.
Beautiful place. Yeah. I mean, America, it's huge. And also it's so different. Like you travel. I mean, it takes a long time to drive across the states, especially stopping to see stuff. But man, it's beautiful. I've never been to the Pacific Northwest. like the Dakotas and West. I haven't been to, but pretty much everywhere else I have, or Hawaii. Those are the states I'm missing on my
I was
states
in
list.
Hawaii for my honeymoon with my wife, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I just remember I had the worst sinus infection, one of the worst I've ever had. We were only there for 10 days only. So you spend 3 days recovering, but it's beautiful. I mean, volcanoes and ocean are the formation of life, the best combination on earth.
Gotta love it. Yeah. My cousin actually lives there, so I kind of have like a spot.
You should go.
Like, hey, what up, cuz?
But what are the requirements? That Hawaii had some medical requirements to get in. I mean, I don't even know if they still have them in effect now.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm so sick of that whole thing, man. I am just fed up with it. I'm so over it.
I'm
sure you are too.
I'm over it. I say every fear hides a wish. I fear certain things, and there's a part of me that says I do believe current governments are not sorry. I do believe that future governments are going to be apologizing and paying for what current governments have done, in the same way that current governments are currently apologizing and paying for things previous governments have done. The more information that comes out, the worse everything looks in all respects.
It's true. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Julio says, we have private healthcare. I have been here for 6 years, and it's the first time I hear about it.
Was that a Canadian? Is that a CA?
Yeah, it's CA. Yeah, Canadian.
Yeah, you could get private insurance. I mean, it's wonderful. You get refunded for. In fact, I believe you're even required to have private insurance for certain things. As a member of the bar, I'm fairly certain I was required to have specific private insurance.
All right.
I hope that's that. I know that it's true. For goodness sake, you say, okay, I know it's true.
He knows it's true. But look at this. See, we're helping people out. This is great. Pepsi Man says, ask Viva to give Tim Pool some hair as a peace offering.
There's nothing wrong with.
I'm staying out of this.
There's nothing wrong with not having hair. Now,
hey, how do you know that? How do you know that?
I'm just trying to be. I'm trying to be optimistic. Look, it is very superficial. The funny thing is, it's so superficial that no one should be permanently attached to any form of hair. I agree. Which is odd, because I have become attached to my facial hair, and I would feel naked without it. But
I'm gonna get rid of this. I might actually. I was gonna get rid of it earlier today, and I'm like, because it's getting to the itchy stage, and as soon as it gets itchy, I'm done with it. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, and also it's good to shave it, get some sun, let it grow in over the summer.
That's true.
Sure. How you see Rob Patterson's Viva, the Ontario Public Health Chief, Kieran Moore, passes the buck to individual employers, says there was never a vaccine mandate. These politicians,
that's what they were going to do the whole time. You never had to get it. You didn't have to.
And when we mandated, well, first of all, when we mandated it and said that, employers were free to do it and set these requirements, it was just a recommendation. Go sue the employers now. Governments are responsible for any issues. Go sue your employer. Although we had always discussed that suing the employer for any potential side effects that you could not sue the government or the manufacturer for, that was always a plausible, a viable line of action. So we'll see if anybody actually does it.
True that. Yeah. Sectus Gaming celebrating 11 months as a member. Thank you, Tucker. Good to see you, my friend. Says, what's up, my Crigler? Godspeed, Adam, Viva, and chat. God bless the United States of America. Thank you, sir. And I do owe you many 100-sided die rolls. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with this.
Hold on a second. That's a 100-sided die.
That's correct. Yeah.
That makes it basically a sphere.
Look at it. I mean, if I roll this thing good, it'll roll for a while.
Well, this is a Zenonian paradox. How many sides are on a perfect sphere? I mean, it's an infinite sided die.
Well, it wouldn't be perfect if it had sides.
No. Well,
right.
Here's a piece of trivia, by the way, before you roll the dice.
Okay.
If you were to shrink the Earth down to the size of a marble, if you were to take a marble and expand it to the size of the Earth, the mountains would be greater than the mountains on Earth itself. I think. I may have just made that up. I didn't make it up. I just remember having heard that.
Like a glass marble, or what kind of material we're talking about?
If you took like what you think is a perfect sphere of a marble and expanded it to the side of the Earth, the mountain ranges would be bigger than the mountain ranges on Earth now currently.
Just because we can't like detect the the little inconsistencies of the surface of the marble. Interesting. Okay. Well, would you like to take a stab at guessing the number?
67.
It's interesting. It's not 67. But everyone in chat has been guessing for a little while. Let me just kind of scroll through chat a little bit. So this is crazy. So Sectus sent me this die, and because I have a tradition to roll a 20-sided die, a little easier. Someone usually guesses it within a minute or less. And he was like 69. He was saying it as a joke for months. And he finally sent me this pack of all these die. But he was like, all right, that 100-sided die, though, I want you to roll a 69 for me. And I was traveling for a while, and I just got back to my house, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And I rolled the 100-sided die one time, and I rolled a 69 first time, and I was bewildered. I couldn't believe it. And he wasn't watching that day. It's like, no.
Well, what is not to be the lawyer? What's the verification system? Do you have a camera for where
I don't have one.
So it's pure trust.
Yeah, but I'm a trustworthy person.
You are, and if one were to lie, I would imagine it would not be on the number of a 100-sided die.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was at a loss of words for at least 5 minutes. I was raving about how amazing it was, because I just couldn't believe it. All right, I can't see who won or won nothing, because you guys win nothing if you do get it. So the number was 57. So you said 67. And I was like, oh, you were, 10 off. But numerically, you were visually one number away, kind of. So, that's cool.
Now I'm going to do some calculations on that number. 57. Let me see what what coincidences I can draw with that number. Someone in the chat says a Westie has 10-gallon tank and gets 10 miles per gallon. Okay. We might just do the Subaru and pitch a tent everywhere. We installed a hitch on the Subaru last summer, thinking we were going to use it last summer. So we might just get a trailer for the Subaru, but it has a maximum towing capacity of 2,000 kilograms. So it has
same with my. What kind of Subaru you got?
The Ascent.
Ah, the Ascent. Okay.
You got the Outback?
No, not a little smaller. I have the Crosscheck.
Oh, you got the. See, I wanted to get that one too, but we got the Ascent now because it has 8 seats. So we have 5 people plus guests. So
yeah, that's true. I love my car though.
Subarus are the best.
Big Subaru fan. Let's see here. Lucius says, how does propaganda work in the information age? I mean, I feel like that's
it works in every which way. It works in the traditional sense, propaganda. It works in the smearing sense, propaganda to discredit the people who are telling the truth. And then it works in the confusion sense. Propaganda. How do I want to describe this one? Basically flooding everything with so much dishonesty and so much untruth that you don't even know what is true to trust in the first place. And so it works in any variety of ways, but confuse people to not know what to believe is just as good as confusing them to believe the wrong thing. And then just using propaganda to go after the sources so that, in your mind, all you think of when you hear a certain name is deplatformed, fake news, whatever controversy, sexual, issues. It's how it works. And so yeah, there's a great many ways, variations in which propaganda is used, and any one of them is going to be used over and over again.
Right on. Well said. Cassie says, "Hey, Winston."
Yeah, the dog I'm looking for. I know he's doing something bad. Okay.
Yeah, because he's quiet now, right?
He's chewed up a paper. I'm fairly certain he might have pissed on the carpet, but no, he's quiet and he's under there. But
yeah,
the paralyzed one occasionally makes her way downstairs, and I still haven't seen her do it. But I imagine it's like when you're kids and you go down on your knees and just slide down the stairs. I'm going to capture it on camera one day, but she hasn't come down yet.
We got to get one of those like nanny cams and just put there, so whenever it senses activity.
Yep, absolutely.
Serious Business says best crossover since Flintstones and Jetsons. Well, thank you so much. Which one am I?
I never knew they had a crossover, so that is.
What do you want to choose? I
would be. You'd be the Jetsons. I'd be the Flintstones.
That's what I was thinking. Let's see. The Schno says five on it. for the little coffee cup Viva, is it Crigler coffee? Cause blessings. That is a little tiny cup, isn't it?
Pinky out, people.
Pinky out. Do you like coffee? Are you a coffee drinker?
I do. The funny thing is, I like coffee, but I've gotten to a point, and I'm concerned because I'm neurotic. Physiologically, I no longer crave coffee in the afternoon. I crave carbonated cold refreshment. So I've moved into yerba mate or these like carbonated. Yeah, they're great, but I'm like, it's weird. I used to wait for my second cup of coffee in the afternoon. Now I no longer have the urge. I need something carbonated and cold.
Right on, right on. David Quesadilla, how you doing? Quesadilla, man, it's great to see you. Obviously, since you're here, this one of my chat members just had open heart surgery like 2 days ago. Was it yesterday? It might have been yesterday. And he's here. Super chatting me. Thank you very much. For $20 says, thanks for speaking out on insurance. I'm currently listening in. Well, thank you for listening in, man. And it's great to see your name popping up. That's great.
Open heart surgery is serious stuff. So rest up and heal up, because
serious.
I've seen videos. It's because it's the open heart surgery is one thing. Accessing the heart is something that some people don't actually think about, that you have to get through the rib cage, which is solid until it's, opened up. It's
a process.
Yes. recover like bull.
Yes. And thank you for being here still, even through the pain. I appreciate you, man. Rob Patterson, another Canadian, says, Viva, the Ontario Public Health Chief, Kieran Moore passed about. Oh, you read this one.
Yeah, I read that one.
I didn't realize you read a super chat. Well, then we talked about that. Well, thank you for your super chat. Fluffer Boy says, also have music on Rumble under Long Walks Music. All right. Yeah, cool. Good job. Keep it going. Kind of want to check it out. I love music. Caligu Love, for 50 Canadian, thank you so much, says, just a little token to express my love and appreciation for both of you.
Oh, it's Caligula, like Caligula, but love.
Oh, Caligula. I like it even more now. That's great.
Thank you, Caligula.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Small SC says, Viva, just a heads up, my Westie has a 10-gallon. You read this one also. Yep. All right, there you go. We got Eliza Blue podcast. Eliza, how you doing? Thank you so much.
Eliza was on my chat. Well, she was on a sidebar with Barnes on my channel a while back, and that was another one of the topics that I was not reluctant. I was nervous to discuss, because it's an exquisitely sensitive topic. True. And the responses it gets on both ends of the spectrum, and that's where, to have these discussions, you have to be able to deal with, and Eliza deals with it. I see it on Twitter and social media. You have to be able to deal with certain comments like water on the back of a duck, so to speak. But Eliza, good to see you.
Yep. Thank you, Eliza. I appreciate you being here. She just simply says, love you too.
Does YouTube not allow a red heart?
It's red for me.
Oh, okay. See, it's black for me. And
are you watching the chat on StreamYard?
Yes.
Yeah. StreamYard changes everything.
And I was wondering, like, what's up? I thought the black heart was like a new symbolic emoji. Okay, fine. Now it all makes sense. Okay, good.
Yeah, there you go. Well, see, I'm glad that I was able to help you learn something.
And now I can get rid of one of my more irrational thoughts. I can put that one to bed and just say, oh, it's always been a red heart. Okay.
Do you think they do it in solidarity?
Whenever I see it, no, I always hear like black heart. I don't know if they were there. Okay,
they're not that black pilled. Dr. Fox says, ordered some coffee. Need bigger than 5-pound bags. Should I really get? So I actually have my own coffee business.
I know, I like it, and I haven't ordered any, but I don't know if you ship to Canada.
I don't, unfortunately. I don't do international shipping, only because the roasters that I use can't do it. They use the USPS system. Okay. So the United States Postal Service will come and pick up their mail, and their outgoing mail is the coffee that's roasted. So to do international shipping, I have to get them to take it to another thing. And so it costs me so much more. Because I got to pay them to do it. And then international shipping itself is expensive. So the cost of someone internationally buying my coffee is so expensive. It's just like,
I've noticed the
yeah.
same thing just with shirts going through represent. If the States are fine, Canada gets bad, and then like Europe, you're
Oh
doing
man.
it. You're doing it to prove a point, and not because you just want a shirt. So
Right.
yeah, no, but Montreal, I was thinking of doing the same thing because we have a bunch of good actual roasters in the area, so you can even get unroasted grain and do it locally. But we'll see. My goal. I'd like to brand my own hot sauce and my own energy drink, but
Nice.
we'll see.
Well,
We'll see.
you will
Yeah,
one day.
one day. I have to
Yeah.
be more than a one person. And we'll see. We'll expand and we'll see where we go in the future.
Caligula in chat just says, I'm literally right on the arbitrary line. I could see Detroit when I get my mail. It hurts not to be able to order. Oh, that's a shame.
She's in Canada.
Yeah, but
right
you can see it. Yeah.
So she must be near Windsor then, I think, right? If Caligula, you might be right next to where the Windsor the blockade was that justified invoking the Emergencies Act. A blockade which was resolved by court order, I believe, even before the Emergencies Act was invoked.
Yeah, that's a shame. Well, maybe you can meet a friend on the other side of the bridge and kind of go into an order together. No, I'm just kidding. I will say though, there is something about fresh coffee versus like going to the store, and because you don't know when it was roasted, because they have to roast it and then bag it and then ship the bags to the stores, and you never know how long it is. They have a best by date, whereas my coffee is, you order it, it gets roasted and sent to you after you order it. So it's like the freshest roast you can get.
That's got to be fantastic. I'll figure out a way to try. I mean, I'll pay whatever it takes. I'll figure out a way to taste it, and then maybe I'll make a video.
You know what, Viva? I would like to get you a bag. I'll make it happen. So send me your address, and I'll get you a bag of my coffee.
Done deal.
Go to criglercoffee.com and pick a roast. I have about 9 roasts from light to dark. I don't know what you like, but just let me know, and we'll get you a bag of Crigler coffee.
Done.
All right. Let's see. We got one more from Captain Ridiculous Awesome Sauce for 10. Says Jack Burton and Big Trouble Little China is still greater than Snake Plissken and Escape from New York /LA. This is a reference to last night. Do you know who Quarter Black Garrett is?
Yes, I follow him on Twitter, but I don't follow him on YouTube.
Oh, he's great. And he joins my show every Wednesday. I call it 1/8 Wednesdays. And he has a show later at night at Wednesdays. And we discussed Demolition Man last night on his show. And it was a lot of fun and amazing amount of parallels between that movie and kind of what's going on in the world today. But this was some of the movies. I've never seen Big Trouble in Little China, and people were like, oh, what? I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it? Do you know that movie, Big Trouble in Little China?
That is Kurt Russell from way back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen a movie that's not an animated movie in about 10 years. So,
your oldest child is what, 10?
My oldest is 12, and I should say
12.
I've introduced them to the classics. So I was just watching Step Brothers with one of my kids.
Great movie.
It's great, but it's like it's shockingly inappropriate for kids. Like we got through it, but like my throat was sore from coughing over all the swear words. But no, it's like I don't get to watch. I haven't watched movies, but then again, I've gotten sufficiently black-pilled that I don't like watching things out of Hollywood now. I whenever I watch a movie, I just wonder how much debauchery has gone on behind the scenes to make this movie possible, and it actually ruins my movie watching experience.
Yeah, that's it's a careful balance in the brain to enjoy things versus the truth of what you know about, Disney, for example. That's like a start of a whole nother show. So Chet Chisholm says, there wasn't a mandate? Tell that to those of us who can't work anymore, and to the members of Canadian forces who are being forced to take a third.
That's federal, and that's where the distinction is that there's a federal mandate which the government is not really rescinding, and then there were provincial mandates for provincial employment. We never had a provincial mandate either in Quebec for healthcare workers, but they were threatening it, and a lot of people quit, and then they threatened it, and a lot of people got it. So I don't know what the rule is in Ontario, but it's a load of passing the buck crap for them to now say we never required it, but we required the employers to do it. But if they did it, it was on them, and don't come after us. But at the end of the day, you were never going to be able to go after them anyhow.
Right.
We'll see who sues employers. You need to have a meeting of events. Like, you have to have an adverse reaction. You have to be able to tie it to a compelled action from your employer. And we'll see if and when those lawsuits get filed. I'm not aware of any for the time being. So if anybody does know, tag me and let me know. But my brother's in Ontario and he's following it. So I'll hear about it if it happens.
Well, Chet's actually in Canada and is a paramedic and got it and had some severe adverse reactions. And I mean, we've talked at length, not on air, about, since he's in the medical field, he knew about a lot of what was going on and was not interested, but
had to, and I would avoid this conversation on your channel because I don't want to get you in trouble.
And I would, because I've gotten many strikes for just even veering close to this subject. So
I was surprised. I had my brother on last week, and he talked about no concrete anecdotal examples, of which we all have many, but talked about just the vaccine injury program, which we have in Canada. It's a federal program. And he just, we went over it. I was like, okay, it got, we got the green light after review. And the video that I posted as a clip on my second channel, Viva Clips, took 4 days to get approved after manual review. But, it's such a bizarre world, such a censored world, where you talk about propaganda, and censorship is a part of it as well. Deter people from even having the discussion about existing government federal programs, and you can control the conversation.
Absolutely. Yep. We got one last super chat from the Schno, $50. Thank you so much for that. Wow. It says roll another one for the cousins. All right, I'll roll one more. All right, here we go. You ready for this, guys? What do you got?
43. Just one day, just once. I want to do it.
It's not 43, unfortunately. All right, chat. What do you guys got? And while you're guessing, I'm going to give you the camera real quick. Just tell people where to find you, what you're doing, and all that.
I was just looking. I'm not a gambling man, but I have a good mind to put $50 on Tiger Woods to win the Masters. If you can get through day one and be 3 shots off the lead, you can do it. You can do, and he looks good.
Yeah,
but it's like, forget the fact that it's 48-1. So $50 can turn into a lot. Set that aside. It would be like, you could script it. It would be the biggest comeback ever in any sporting event. I've already sold it. It's not going to happen. But however you feel about Tiger Woods, whether or not his debaucherous lifestyle, whatever, it would be to be at that point a year ago or 18 months ago, and now actually he looks good today. I would love to see it. But
I saw his first shot, like teeing off hole number 1, and I think it went into the bunker, and I was like, all right.
It finished 1 under, and he made some. But could you just the determination to do it? It would be a fairy tale stuff, and it would be inspiring for the world, and it'd be inspiring for people. That might be like the white pill moment that people need at a certain time. So, plus it's 48-1. I mean, that's like guessing. That's like that's like guessing on a 50-sided dice. I could do that once in a while. No.
Yeah,
I'm totally wrong on my math. Don't look at me for math, people.
I actually have a 50-sided die. It came with it. Should I grab it? I don't know.
48-1 would mean that it's 1 in 40. Yeah, it's close enough in terms of odds.
All right. Hey, Dr. Fox, it was 98 was the number. 98.
Oh God, no one can guess that number.
Well, he guessed 99, and he was 1 away. So congratulations, Dr. Fox. You won absolutely nothing. Save it up for something nice at the Nothing store, and maybe buy someone you love nothing. But remember to tell them you love them when you give them that nothing. So Viva,
99 guesses, but the right one wasn't one. Okay. Too long. Where can people find me?
Where can people find you? Here's the camera. Go ahead and let them have it.
Oh, look at this. Hello. I do look crazy. There you go. Viva Frei on YouTube. Viva Frei on Rumble. Viva Frei on Twitter. Viva Frei on Instagram if you want to. Viva Frei on Facebook. I do not send out DMs on Facebook saying, tell me more about yourself. Are you available to chat? What else? And then vivabarneslaw.locals.com, which is where Robert Barnes and we have discussions we can't have on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube. Nothing shot, just good, uncensored news. And what else? Oh yeah, I got the Viva Clips channel, and I've got the Viva Family, which I should start posting to more to remind myself that there is still beauty in this soul-crushing life sometimes.
I love that. I love that very much. We got a quick update from The Last Crow. It's just The Last Crow. He's on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute. So everything that we mentioned, you can go find The Last Crow and check him out. I got you, dog. And then we got one more super chat real quick. Lurker and the Strange Perfumery, another Canadian, says, I just tried to buy your coffee and you don't ship to America's Top Hat, the 51st state. I'm not far from Detroit too. Serious anger face. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. I just, are you willing to spend like 4 times as much on the same bag of coffee? I just
drones. Adam, get into drones, and you can have them deliver.
There you go.
No, but jokes aside, don't fly your drone within 9 kilometers of a border. You will get in trouble. Period.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. All right. Well, that was awesome. Viva, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's fantastic. I love open discussion. Period. I just love it. Even with I'd like it with people who I don't ideologically align with. It's more fun having it when you're not adversarial. But right. Adam, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for joining. I will see you tomorrow here on the Crigler Show. I'll be jamming out on one of my guitars from behind. And yeah, that was great. And I'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Good night.